So now we need to identify what are the core competencies of an organization and how do we actually identify what things are VRIN? Well, one of these ways is to think of it as a funnel. If you first map all of the activities, all of the things that the organization does that are adding value to your end consumer. So think about things like even the more abstract from reputation and corporate culture. And you might look at it and say, well, it's their marketing. Coca-Cola has their logistics network. What are the things that are adding value to our end consumer? And so we should actually take this huge list and then actually be able to narrow it down. So what are the really things that are adding superior value? Where are we really excelling? And so we then keep going down. We say, okay, which of these now are rare? Where are these more unique that other companies don't have? Finally, you look at it and say, well, what of these are actually difficult to copy and there aren't substitutes for? This should get us down to being about 2 to 4 activities. And so you want to keep it at 2 to 4 activities because when we go beyond that, at this point, we're talking about probably putting our resources in too many places. We can't be good at everything. We need to be very specific. It goes back to the trade-off situation of where do we need to focus. So if we have these core competencies and we determine what we think these are, we then need to go back to the value chain. Because at the value chain, we should be able to identify multiple parts of the value chain that this is involved with. So think about Southwest Airlines. Southwest Airlines, their corporate culture is actually one of their core competencies because that actually influences many different aspects of the value chain. So we talk about firm infrastructure and how leadership goes into that part. Well, Herb Keller, he taught that inclusion, and he was very friendly. He made sure that he was connected with employees. He set the tone. Remember, infrastructure is the context for which all these other activities take place. So this leadership set this tone. And so that's the firm infrastructure itself. Well, think then about how that went into human resource management, how they train employees, the benefits that they're going to give, the way that they hire and recruit. That's all going to play a part in here. We then see that filter down into the marketing, sales, and even the service components of the value chain, because here we're seeing how that will influence our customers because we're adding to the customer experience itself. So that's the key thing when you think about these core competencies is this should not be one thing, one part of the value chain. This should actually go into multiple parts of the value chain because that's what makes it different. That's what makes it hard to copy. Something that is just one specific part. Well, you have, a relationship with with one specific supplier. Well, okay. But you should be able to take that and fill that farther down the line to say, how does this actually really create value for the end user? And is it that simple? Because is that something that other companies can do? So when you think about the value chain, you think about the core competencies, you really need to look at them and then look back and say, how did these fit into the different parts of the value chain? And that's going to be an important thing that you have to do in your big team case because you're going to have to discuss the core competencies and then look at the different parts of that and how this filters back into the value chain.